samasta jana kalyane niratam karunamayam namami chinmayam devam sadgurum brahma vidvaram vasudeva sutam devam kamsa chanura mardhanam devaki paramanandam krishnam vande jagadgurum tvameva mata cha pita tvameva tvameva bandhusya sakha tvameva tvameva vidya dravidam tvameva tvameva sarvam amadeva deva tvameva sarvam amadeva deva. Hari Om. So far we have discussed the prerequisites for a student of Vedantin, one who wants to know. So for him, that kind of student, one who has the desire to moksha, scripture says you approach a teacher, and you approach a teacher with a humility. So therefore it says tad vijnanartham sa gurum eva abhigachet samitpanihi sotriyam brahmanishtam. So what kind of teacher? Teacher who has a sotriyam, the one himself studied the scriptures under his teacher for a prolonged length of time until it has become crystal clear, who has gone through mananam, reflecting on the teacher and completely have a clear understanding of the scriptures, and also brahmanishtam, the one who is abiding in the truth. Therefore he lives in that values or in the teaching or in the knowledge itself that everything is nothing but him. So does the teacher has understood that everything is nothing but himself? So how can he teach if he sees the student different from him? So one has to be careful, because people think that a jnani will not see anymore or will not interact anymore. So only a jnani thinks that the teacher is teaching me. It's only a notion in the jnani that the teacher of a qualified teacher is teaching, because teacher has realized and he has become a Brahman. So therefore he cannot see any differences anywhere, no more distinguishing features, because he is seeing only oneness that pervades everywhere. It has to be clear, a jnani still sees the world, jnani still uses the mind, and for him to teach he has to have a mind, and the mind should have the knowledge. So he knows the shastras, and the shastra is the amount of information that is stored. So what exactly is the knowledge? How exactly the moksha, liberation comes? All that we should have a clear understanding it. So how does this teaching and learning, which is in the transactional world, how does that eliminate the ajnanam which is beyond the transactions? Because even ajnanam is part of this. So one of the commentaries or criticisms of Advaita Vedanta is what you call ajnanam and what is the shastram. All these are discussed in elaborately in the Vedanta, and also other teachers or darshanikas criticize Advaita on the basis of the teaching of Advaita. Why? Because ajnanam is the ignorance, and the question is, who has the ignorance? That's a fundamental question raised by Bhagavan Sri Ramanuja in his Sri Bhashya on Brahma Sutras. So this is a Purva Paksha. He takes the Advaita philosophy as his Purva Paksha and raises the questions about the ajnana aspect of Advaita Vedanta. For him, says you cannot have a jiva cannot have the ajnanam, or jiva cannot be ignorant, and Brahman cannot be ignorant. So then who is ignorant? That question. Why jiva cannot have ignorant? Because jiva himself is a product of ignorance. That means ignorance has to be presupposing before the jiva comes into picture. That means ignorance is already there before jiva concept comes into picture. So jiva cannot be locus of ajnanam. So cannot be locus of avidya, means jiva should be there before ajnanam can be the jiva can be locus for ajnanam. But which came first? The ajnanam came first or jiva came first? And therefore, this itself is a confusion. If Ajnanam came first, then Jiva cannot be the locus. If Jiva come first, then Jiva cannot be having Ajnanam, because he was there even before Ajnanam came. How does Ajnanam enter? Ajnanam cannot come because it is Anadi. So it is beginningless. So beginningless Ajnanam, how can it enter into, or how can it start in the Jiva? So there are a lot of problems in the, according to the Ramanuja, about the nature of Ajnana. Whereas the Advaita Vedanta says, who has Ajnanam? Simple answer is the one who doesn't know that I am Brahman is Ajnani, because he doesn't know. So Ajnanam is the one who has no concept or understanding that he is the Brahman. So he has Ajnana. But who he is really? He is as though appears to be a Jiva at this time, but actually is a Brahman conscious entity appearing as Jiva with Ajnanam. From Brahman point, there is no Ajnanam. From one point, it is Ekameva Advitiyam, one without a second, without any distinctions of any kind. Therefore, there is no Ajnani or Jnanam also. All are, it is Jnana Swarupam. Satyam Jnanam is Jnana Swarupam. And there is no knowledge of, because we are talking about knowledge of Vedanta, knowledge of Brahman. So, it is pure knowledge which is of the nature of the Chit aspect. And therefore, Brahman, from Brahman point there is no Ajnanam. Then from Jiva point, Jiva also point there is no Ajnanam also. Then who has Ajnanam? Only a notion, the mind that has a notion as that I am this. Why he has this? Because he doesn't know the truth. So it is the Antahkaranam where it belongs to the mind of a Jiva as a notion that there is no Brahman and I am only this. It's like moon thinking that I am self-illuminating entity, because moon is illumining, and therefore it is luminous body in the sky, and looking around and says, where did I get luminosity from? He doesn't know. Therefore he thinks I am self-illuminating. I am the one which is shining. You can see, in fact, in the moonlight, people can see things also if it is a full moon night. Therefore, a moon thinking that I am self-conscious entity. But what is consciousness? What is the illumination? Illumination is borrowed illumination, a reflected consciousness taken as the original consciousness. The reflected consciousness is reflection of all-pervading sunlight in the case of moon, reflection of all-pervading Sachidanandam, which is pure consciousness, is as though getting reflected in the mind, and that mind thinks I am a conscious entity, and the notions are in the mind, because that mind which is illumined does not know that consciousness that is getting reflected is not from itself, it is from the total consciousness. It is only reflecting medium, reflecting the all-pervading consciousness. So if at all there is a consciousness, it is not due to it, it is due to the Satchidananda Swarupam. That recognition has to come to that mind which has a notion that it is conscious entity, and therefore it is the one that has to get learned. So where is the Ajnanam? Ajnanam rests with the Antahkaranam. Antahkaranam is the mind and the buddhi. It has the wrong notions, and therefore we need to remove the wrong notions by the right understanding. So Ajnana Kalusham Jivam Jnanabhyasad Nirmanam Sutva Jnanam Swayam Masid Jalam Katakare. This is in the Atma Bodha, Shankara says, Jiva is having a Ajnanam notion. Jiva is what? I am the mind is a notion, a consciousness, as though taking the reflected consciousness in the mind, taking that I am the original consciousness. The notions are in the mind, and the mind has to be prepared and has to learn through Vedanta. So it is a prakriya involved, a studies involved, therefore a process involved. So Ajnana Kalusham Jivam Jnanabhyasad Nirmanam. Only it can be purified by Jnanam. Then how does the realization occur? Who is going to realize? Is the mind going to realize? The reflected consciousness going to realize? All these questions come into picture. It is self-revealing. Once the jnanam comes, jnanam will remove ajnanam, and then what else I have to do? Nothing else, because I am shining by myself. It is like the sun is there and there are clouds covering. The fellow under the cloud says, I don't see the sun. Why I don't see the sun? Clouds are covering the sun. So what should I do? Clouds need to be removed. So by the wind, when the clouds removed, then what else I had to do? There is nothing else, because the sun is shining behind the clouds. It has been shining even before also, but I am not able to see the sun because of the covering. If the covering is removed, the sun is self-shining sun is self-revealing also. So I don't have to do anything after that. It is, I'll see that it is sunlight is there. That is, the knowledge is self-revealing also. In the Naishkalmya Siddhi, Sureshwara gives a beautiful example. So when I enter in a pitch dark room, I cannot see anything. So I take a torchlight and then I am showing the torchlight and I show there is an object there, there is a chair there, there is a table there. So each one, whenever I focus the light on that, and the object is getting revealed. So my focusing is my process, and revealing is phalam, is the result of focusing. So there is a vritti is involved, my process is involved in trying to focus my this one and looking at the object, and phalam is the result is that object is getting revealed by the illumination of the light. This we understand. Now when I am looking around in the dark room, I see a pot there, but pot is upside down. To see the pot, I need still put a torchlight, and in the torchlight only I can see the pot. So out of curiosity, I lift the pot, and when I lift the pot, I see a candle burning there. Now, do I need a torchlight to see the candle again? Candle is already burning and it's already source of light. I don't need another light to see the light. So torchlight, the candle light is self-revealing. Even so I remove the obstructing process, the one who is obstructing, the pot is removed, that is a process, and the light becomes, the candle light becomes a self-revealing. It reveals itself because it is of the nature of the light itself. In the same way, once the ajnanam, the ignorance is removed by a process of learning process, and the truth gets revealed itself. All that is implied. So who realizes? When the mind turned and removed, when the ajnanam, the wrong notions in the mind are removed, then the knowledge automatically takes place. In the knowledge, the process and everything else is cleared out. So jalam katakarena vatu. So swayam nasya, the knowledge also gets destroyed, the process, that knowledge also is destroyed. I don't need a torchlight anymore. Torchlight is not needed, anything else is not needed to see the burning candle there. Same way, all process, all study of scriptures, shrotavyaha, mantavyaha, nididhyasitavyaha, all the study of scriptures, intense study for a prolonged length of time, and reflecting on the teaching and contemplating on the truth expounded in the teaching are required until the knowledge is, the self-revealing knowledge it settles in my mind, and I recognize myself. I am the light of consciousness that is illuminating everything else, and I don't need any other knowledge to know myself. I am aprameyam. I am self-revealing, and that's why even in a pitch dark room, I don't have to look for myself, because I know I am there. I know I am conscious entity. How? Because that is self-revealing, because I am self-conscious entity, and self-conscious entity is self-existing entity. For other things I have to say, yes, it is there, it is not there. Existence of any other inert object I had to establish, but to establish my own existence and my own consciousness, I don't need any means, because I am self-revealing and self-conscious entity. And that's what is to be understood. So even this knowledge has to take place, and this clear understanding, to gain that, I have to approach a teacher with a proper attitude. So approaching a teacher has to be with the humilities. Sotriyam Brahmanishtam, with Samitpanihi, taking the firewood, because in those days they were in the Himalayas, in the cold country, where they need to keep up warm even for the teaching to go on. So to service is important, and to symbolize the service, take something that is needed for the teacher, and that is implied in the sloka. Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprasnena sevaya. Krishna himself says in the fourth chapter, says you have to approach a teacher, and then when you approach a teacher, ask appropriate questions. Don't ask silly questions there. Say, when do you get up, sir? What do you do, sir? All that is irrelevant, because you are going there to learn moksha. So you have to ask appropriate. Depending on your questions, the teacher know what do you know, what you don't know. So when Narada went to Sanat Kumara, please teach me the knowledge. Says, first you tell me what you know. So Narada states what all things he knows and what he doesn't know, and he is suffering as a consequence of lack of that knowledge, and he asks, please teach me that Brahma Vidya, knowing which all my samsara goes away. That, therefore, you have to approach a teacher. So when you go to a physics teacher, ask about physics problem, not about astronomy or some other subject that he may not know. So when you go to Vedantic teacher, you have to talk about what is Vedanta. That means what is the absolute truth, not about the objective world. He may not know anything, how to make a pizza or how to make this, and he may not even care for it. So going to a teacher, pariprasnena. So, buying to teacher by asking the appropriate questions that you need in order to clarify your confusion, your mind. And that teaching you have to approach a teacher with that. And tadvitti pranipatena, by surrendering yourself. Don't be a stiff, be humility, because the teacher doesn't have to teach. He has no obligation. He is not a professional. He is not paying, you cannot pay him also, because he doesn't depend on anything, on anybody else for his happiness. He is happy because he is a Brahmanishta. He is self-satisfied. Atmani eva atmanatushtaha. So he is reveling in himself. So there is no reason for him to come down and teach. Only out of pure compassion he comes down and teaches. Also, because of, we mentioned, Acharya Runam is there. That means he is obligated to his teacher to pass on the knowledge, because he himself approached his teacher in the same way, and the teacher was compassionate enough to teach him. Therefore, it is his obligation to teach those who come with a sincere attitude. Please teach me. Then only the teacher. In fact, Krishna gives you to whom one should teach. The one who has the Shraddha, who in the highest truth. So one who has a belief, it means has a real faith that there is something higher that I want to know, and that jignasu, the inquisitiveness has to be there, and those who approach only, for them only you teach. And therefore, a proper attitude and how to approach a teacher also has specified. So one has to be, there's a Zen story where one says, I'm trying to find a good teacher, a perfect teacher to teach me. So he has listed qualifications of the teacher and tried to see if this teacher satisfies this, and he was looking for so-called perfect teacher, and he could not find any perfect teacher, because he found always there is some problem with some teacher or other. At last he found one teacher who is meeting all his requirements, and then he went to the teacher, said, I've been looking for a perfect teacher like you, because I have gone all our teachers, and every teacher has one imperfections or other, and you are the only one that is meeting all the perfections that I have. Please, I want to come and teach. Says, yes, you found a perfect teacher, but are you a perfect disciple? Says, yes, sir. Says, let's go and see. So he takes him to the place. There was a well there, and there is a thread there, and there is a bucket. He says, all you have to do is take the bucket, tie that to the rope, and then take the water out and fill up the tank there. So, oh, that's easy. But when you look at the bucket, there is no bottom for the bucket. He says, sir, how am I going to take the water from the bucket? And even if I put it, there won't be any water coming in. So he says, don't I know that? So when I ask you to do something, I am testing you how much you are ready to serve the teacher appropriately without questioning it. You have to have an inclinating mind, to have a faith in the teacher that there is something that will happen. So when you do that only, you are ready student. So before you go and ask for who is a perfect teacher, try to become a perfect disciple first. So Swami Chinmayananda will say, don't go and hunt for a teacher. Because everybody goes around, hey, I'm going for Himalayas, or I'm trying to find a teacher who can teach me. He says, no, you be wherever you are and try to attend satsang and so on. Prepare your mind. Appropriate teacher will come to you to teach when your mind is ready for it. The Lord himself takes the responsibility to send a teacher, otherwise he himself will come in some form to teach you. Therefore, that is his responsibility. All you have to do is bloom yourself. A flower, when it blooms, it doesn't have to go in search of where is the bee. The bee shall come when the bloom is ready. So is therefore a teacher will come when the disciple is ready. So when the disciple is ready, when the teacher has come, then the teaching will start, provided the teacher asks the question. And depending upon the teacher asking the question, then appropriate teaching is there. For every sadhaka, there is appropriate teachers involved. And a rational intellect, one who doesn't have that much faith but questions everything, only a teacher of that caliber will be coming out. Whereas one who can understand even silence teaching also, people go to Ramana Maharshi and there, without even any discussions, they are able to pick up because their minds are already purified to learn from silence itself. Whereas the other people, we need a teaching where one has to see Vedantic teaching also. Those who have already learned in the past life or something, where their things have to be revealed, where only appropriate teaching, where you don't need complete teaching, only show what is it is. So everything, there is an appropriate teacher for everything. So there was a question raised when I was with Gurudev. One American lady asked the teacher, sir, why can't India send only the right teacher, because all sorts of teachers are coming and there are a lot of people, and there are one teacher with 14 Cadillacs and all that, they are making a mess here, and why can't the government send only right teachers? So Swamiji laughed and said, when you go to a shop, what do? You go and pick up what you need, don't complain that why the shopper is selling all sorts of things that you don't need it. You should sell only what you need. The shop merchant is catering for everybody's needs, and everybody's needs differ. So he provides appropriate. Those teachers who need that kind of teacher, they go to him, and in the process they learn that they have to use next time the better selection process. So at least they have learned. So that is the teacher they need at that time. Therefore, Lord provides an appropriate teacher depending upon the qualifications of the student. So once you go there, what kind of questions you have to ask? In the Viveka Chudamani, the teacher, a student who has already prepared his mind, who is anxious to know the moksha, and he explains, sir, this is a samsara, this suffering, how am I get rid of? So looking at his attitude and what he has said, the teacher says, assures you have no problem, you will be, moksha will come, and for that, all you have to do is prepare your mind and ask properly. So in the next talk, we will go into the the Guru Sishya Samvada, where the student will ask the question and the teacher responds to the question appropriately, and from then on the teaching starts. So the teacher, the student has prepared, the student has gone to an appropriate teacher, he recognized that he is a teacher that he can teach me, and only through the grace of God you approach appropriate teacher. Therefore, Durlavam Traimi Vaitatu Daivanugraha Hetukam Manushyatvam, Mumukshutvam, Mahapurusha Samsrayam. These are all three difficult things. One has to, because of the previous, the janmas of punyam of many, you are led to appropriate teacher, because I cannot evaluate a teacher. I am led to a appropriate teacher by the Lord Himself, or gracefully saying that, but my own punya karma will lead me to that. So I have to preparation. Once the mind is prepared, it is the law of nature to provide you appropriate teacher. All that is being considered when you go to a teacher. Now, in the next talk, we are talking about the teacher, the student asking a question and how the teaching starts also. This we will stop here. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Stop now.